1998. I'll never forget it. It was the year when those grisly murders occurred in the Arklay Mountains. Soon after, the news was out to the whole world, revealing that it was the fault of a secret viral experiment conducted by the international pharmaceutical enterprise, Umbrella. The virus broke out in a nearby mountain community, Raccoon City, and hit the peaceful little town with a devastating blow crippling its very foundation. Not taking any chances, the President of the United States ordered a contingency plan to sterilize Raccoon City. With the whole affair gone public, the United States government issued an indefinite suspension of business decree to Umbrella. Soon its stock prices crashed, and for all intents and purposes, Umbrella was finished. Six years have passed since that horrendous incident.
Resident Evil 4 was first released in North America in January of 2005 on the GameCube. Initially slated to be a GameCube console exclusive game, I still actually have my original copy that brandishes the Only On logo in the corner. This didn't last very long, however. Resident Evil 4 went on to be released and re-released a handful of times in the future, starting with its PS2 debut in October of 2005, first release of the PC version in May 2007, along with a Nintendo Wii release. Resident Evil 4 was then released with a HD remastering on PS3 and 360 in September 2011, followed swiftly by a Steam release in 2014 that had some graphical updates to the textures and ran at a solid 60 frames per second. Finally, the most recent re-release of Resident Evil 4 was on PS4 and Xbox One in August of 2016, just over a year ago. Resident Evil 4 was directed by Shinji Mikami, who held significant roles in all the Resident Evil games that came before Resident Evil 4. He held director, producer, or executive producer roles in some of the following titles: Resident Evil, Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3, Resident Evil Code Veronica, Devil May Cry, the Dino Crisis trilogy, and many more. He then followed up Resident Evil 4 by holding the same significant positions in the following games to come out later, such as God Hand, Vanquish, Shadows of the Damned, my personal favorite of these ones, The Evil Within, and most recently, just a couple months ago, The Evil Within 2.
Vayan por detrás. Why are these people? What are they planning? Chainsaw. Shit. Son of a...
Needless to say, the dude has played numerous significant roles in a lot of really good games, whether it be in the past or today's age. He's one of my biggest inspirations in video games, and has done some excellent work throughout his career.
Oh, la campana. Es hora de rezar. Tenemos que irnos. Lord Saddler.
Where's everyone going? Bingo?
Resident Evil 4 came out in 2005 to excellent critical reception, earning a 9.6 out of 10 from GameSpot, 5 stars from GameSpy, a 9.8 out of 10 from IGN, 10 out of 10 from Nintendo Power, and a 95% from official Nintendo Magazine. The 2005 release also holds a 96 out of 100 on Metacritic, and the buzz doesn't quite stop there. Resident Evil 4 has earned 2005 Game of the Year awards from Spike VGX, Nintendo Power, and Game Informer. Resident Evil 4 also earned a Best Visuals from Spike's VGX in 2005, and tied with Kingdom Hearts 2 for Famitsu's Game of the Year in 2005. Along with all those accommodations, Screw Attack named it the best GameCube game of all time, and in 2007, Edge awarded Resident Evil 4 second best video game of all time, right behind Zelda: Ocarina of Time. In 2008, it was given first place in best video game of all time by IGN's readers, and in the 2012 edition of Guinness Book of World Records Gamers Edition, it holds the record for best-selling survival horror game of all time. So we now know two things for certain. Shinji Mikami is a total badass and has definitely earned my utmost respect as a figure in the gaming industry, and that Resident Evil 4 was critically acclaimed worldwide by a handful of credible sites, magazines, etc. Now knowing all that information, what did Resident Evil 4 do to put it on the map as one of the most influential games of the last 20 years, if not of all time?
Why'd you quit?
Phew, Policia. You put your life on the line. Nobody really appreciates you enough for it. Being a hero isn't what it's cracked up to be anymore.
Used to be a cop myself. Only for a day, though.
I thought I was bad.
Somehow I managed to get myself involved with the incident in Raccoon City on my first day in the force.
That is the incident with the viral outbreak, right? Now!
Elements of Resident Evil 4 can still be found in video games that come out today, as recent as just these past months. While some of these elements have transformed into negative things in games, well, there's really just the one. One in particular built the very foundation of some of our favorite games in modern day, such as Gears of War, Fallout, Dead Space, Grand Theft Auto, etc. The third-person action camera, and the implementation of a precision aiming feature. In fact, Gears of War might not have been the excellent trilogy it became without Resident Evil 4's groundbreaking gameplay. At GDC 2007, Cliff Bleszinski said the seeds of Gears of War were sown by 3 other titles, the first being Resident Evil 4, which made a huge, indelible impression on Cliff even before its release in January 2005. Quote, "I really liked the pacing and the over-the-shoulder view," unquote. Without Resident Evil 4, Gears of War could have ended up being a very basic copy of Unreal Tournament, and as a fan of Gears of War as it is, I'm very glad it became what it is now. The third-person action camera and precision aim influence is undeniable. You still see it in Shinji Mikami's works such as Shadows of the Damned and The Evil Within, and you also see it many times over the years with games like Dead Space, Fallout, Grand Theft Auto, Metal Gear Solid 4, Mass Effect, Uncharted, Infamous. The list goes on and on. You can turn around right now and look at your game shelf and probably name a handful of games of your own that borrow this third-person camera and precision aiming feature. So how about that element I mentioned earlier that I stated may have some negativity attached to it? The QuickTime events. Another huge influence on today's video games. For better or for worse, That's undeniable. Resident Evil 4 introduced QTEs in a way that we had never even fathomed before. You could be relaxing, watching a cutscene, taking a break, and suddenly you end up dead in some gruesome way. Resident Evil 4 just didn't let you relax. It set a blistering pace throughout the whole game, forced the player to pay attention even on maybe the second or third run of the game. QTEs did go on to become a very annoying and sometimes hindering aspect of some games in the future, and gamers started to view QTE as a negative aspect of gameplay in later games that rely too heavily on QuickTime events to keep the player's attention. However, even with some of the negativity surrounding QTE, there was a whole genre of games birthed from it alone. Most notably the Telltale game series, Walking Dead, Wolf Among Us, the Batman games, Game of Thrones, and much more. Of course you can argue, well, are those games really games? But that is a topic for another video, and I do eventually want to expand on that in the future. With that said, I think it is undeniable that those games could have ended up being very different or maybe not even existing at all without the influence of QuickTime events that Resident Evil 4 gave to the world. Whether you hate QTEs, love them, or are indifferent, they are there, and that is largely in part of Resident Evil 4. I feel like we have barely scraped the surface of the topic of why Resident Evil 4 might be one of the most influential games of the last 20 years. However, this last element I want to talk about is a shorter one, and one that is more personal for me, and maybe we can come back to this topic in the future in a later episode of Humanity Restored. But for now, this specific one is what I want to talk about. You can find this element specifically in Shinji Mikami's later works. That is, the stoic main character protagonist and his witty one-liners. Now obviously we had Duke Nukem and we had other protagonists who would bust off some one-liners to get a laugh from the player. However, personally I felt like Leon's portrayal in Resident Evil 4 really is the pinnacle of this somewhat smart-ass, badass character with some clever and at most times cringy one-liner dialogue. Let's just take a listen.
Where's everyone going? Bingo? Well, I really don't give a damn. Rain or shine, you're going down.
Hate to say it, but we're sandwiched all right.
I'm sure you boys didn't just tag along so we could sing Kumbaya together at some Boy Scout bonfire. But then again, maybe you did. Women.
It stinks.
Sure does.
No thanks, bro.
No way, Leon.
Way.
Okay, I have only one very important question. You got a smoke?
Got gum.
I knew you'd be fine if you landed on your butt.
Just because you killed my small-time subordinate.
Sadler, you're small time.
No.
Leon, it's been 6 hours since our last transmission. I was starting to get worried.
Don't you mean lonely? Sounds more like an alien invasion if you ask me.
I've sent my right hand to dispose of you.
Your right hand comes off?
Not to worry. We've prepared a special ritual for you.
I want to reiterate that yes, this element really is mainly for me personally, as a huge fan of Leon's character in Resident Evil 4, which in my opinion has some of the most quotable dialogue in a video game fucking ever. At some level, I do think the cleverness of these cringy one-liners has made its way into other games thanks to Resident Evil 4. But hey, maybe I'm just giving too many strokes to the Resident Evil 4 shaft. What is undeniable, however, Shinji Mikami's writing characters like this in his later works, God Hand, Vanquish, Shadows of the Damned especially, and The Evil Within. These leading characters are endearing to watch, listen to, and yes, they absolutely sometimes make you look over your shoulder hoping no one else heard the television in fear of embarrassment. But then you laugh to yourself about it, and that's important. That is something that I feel like some developers don't give players sometimes. A laugh. And that's just sad. I hope everyone that watched this video enjoyed the first episode of Humanity Restored. I know it may have been a little bumpy along the way, but I'm still working out some of the kinks, so I ask that everyone bears with me for the time being. My main goal of this show is to open up a dialogue and get people talking about video games more and their culture behind them. I'm looking for discussion, and I hope everyone is down to participate in that discussion. So let's talk in the comments below. If you liked this video, you can click the like button or consider subscribing. And if you disliked the video, then absolutely click the dislike button and tell me down in the comments what you disliked about it or what you disagreed with me on. Differing opinions are healthy, and in today's society, we don't need any more reason to silence those differing opinions. If you're feeling really generous, I do have a Patreon for the show and its companion podcast that you can find on iTunes, SoundCloud, and other podcast services. In fact, episode 1 of that podcast should be up in the next week or so check that out once it is. The Patreon is www.patreon.com/humanityrestored. Consider becoming a patron and help keep this show ad-free. I'm Colton Wilson, and thank you all for watching this episode of Humanity Restored and or listening to the podcast, and I hope I see everyone here again. Peace.
You have a heart of gold. Don't let them take it from you.
My soul laced up the body.